Okay, everyone, thank you for joining to this session, and thank you for joining the Business Application Summit in New Zealand. A special thanks to Rami and the team of organizers, everyone who is putting this together, and the sponsors. My name is Reza. I'm not a power lifter. I'm a Power BI consultant, trainer, and also these days do a lot of things on Microsoft Fabric, which I'm about to tell you what it is. I work at Radacat. We are a consulting and training business on Power BI, Microsoft Data Analytics, Microsoft Fabric. We do, I'm based in Auckland, but we do have people all around the world. Like we have some in South Island, some in North Island, some overseas. We work with clients in New Zealand or overseas to help their data analytics project. I have written some books on Power BI and data analytics. You can see those information in Radacat website. So that's pretty much about me. Okay, so let's talk about why we have Fabric. Let's start that discussion with why. I have a few slides to go through, and then I'll show you demos. So this session mostly would be demos. If you are in data analytics space, and by that, it might be building reports, it might be doing data science work, it might be data engineering, it might be storing data in a data warehouse, it might be any of these. If you are in a data analytics space, there is no single one technology that can answer all of your questions and all of your requirements, all of your needs. You would require a group of technologies. Even if we put different vendors aside, even if we just say, let's go and have a look at Microsoft technology. In Microsoft area, we have quite a bit of technologies available for just data analytics space. For example, this screenshot you see right now, I took it from Azure portal, and only the services related to analytics, like Synapse, HD Insight, Azure Data Explorer, machine learning, analysis services, quite a bunch of these, Data Factory, and that's analytics part. If you go and look at the database part of it, if you look at an AI and machine learning part of it, you will end up with like 30 different technologies that, as a data analyst, and not data analyst, anyone who is in dealing with a data analytics project, because data analyst might be just minor part of it, you need to know about these. These are quite a lot of technologies to learn, and it would take a lot of time. You would have the complexity of, how these works together, how you can combine these technologies, along with the fact that each of these also have their own licensing plan, which make everything even harder. So the idea for creating Microsoft Fabric was simplicity. The same thing Microsoft did with Power BI like 8 years ago, the same thing they did with Power Platform. They are using the same approach now for Microsoft Fabric. So looking at Power BI, it's basically an umbrella on top of a group of products, Power View, Power Pivot, or Analysis Services Tabular as well, Power Query. So they combined that, called it Power BI, added some features to it, and it became super successful. With Power Platform, we have a group of products, Power Apps, Flow, Power Automate, Power BI, a bunch of these that are together helping in business application. Now, Fabric is that umbrella built for data analytics projects. So what they did, Microsoft team, and mainly this happened like since 2 years ago, they worked on a secret project, and that secret project happened to be now Microsoft Fabric. They spent a lot of time combining three main products together, which was Data Factory, the data transformation technology in cloud, Power BI, the business intelligence tool, with Synapse. So these three products, they combined it into one and called it Microsoft Fabric. But not just that, they also added some new components, which Data Activator is one of these. All of these components are helping you to build an end-to-end data analytics application, and they all using the same storage engine called OneLake. So pretty much what we are saying is that Microsoft Fabric is an end-to-end data analytics solution. There is nothing in the data analytics space that you would need that is not in this offering. Now, looking at these in detail, so what is in the box? You will have storage with OneLake. OneLake is a logical layer. It's not the actual physical layer. That is Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. OneLake manages that over on the top of it so that you don't really get into the details of where this is located, which region it is. All of those are pretty much managed by OneLake. The data integration component of that is Data Factory. This is where we have Azure Data Pipeline combined with Data Flow Gen 2 to build the data transformation engine. Synapse is a big component of Microsoft Fabric. It provides data engineering capabilities such as notebooks, such as Lakehouse, data warehousing capabilities, which is for building data warehouse and maintaining it at scale in a way that it supports all of our analytics needs. It has data science capabilities, which is for machine learning and building prediction plans. And then the real-time analytics part of it, which you can use for predictive maintenance application or any other application that requires real-time analytics. Business intelligence component of that is using Power BI. There's a new action platform, Data Activator, which you would probably find it very similar to Power Automate, but this is, we can call it Power Automate for data compared to Power Automate, which is more for activity and actions around it. And the governance of all of these can be done using Purview. So in a short, let's say brief overview, I'll explain about a few of these, and then we'll go to a demo. So the storage is OneLake. So the idea behind this storage is that like when we have this data lake storage in Azure Data Lake Gen 2, the problem with that is that every company go and purchase a storage, but they purchase probably usually more than one storage, like one department purchases storage for themselves, another department for themselves. So each one has their own data lake. The idea behind OneLake is that you would have one place to store all of your data, even if it is in different Azure Data Lake storage regions and things like that. It is still managed by one logical layer, so they would all see that as one logical layer across the whole tenant. The data integration component, for a long time, Microsoft had this battle between Power Query data flows for data transformation engine versus tools in Azure, such as Azure Data Factory, data pipelines, which are good for not only data ingestion, but also for control flow execution. So combination of these two is building the data integration. The data engineering Synapse part, Microsoft is using Spark, and you can write languages in Spark R, Spark SQL, Spark Python, and Scala. In any of these 4 languages, you can spin up a notebook, run it on top of a object you have in Lakehouse, not only to do data engineering stuff, but also to do data science as well. And the Synapse Data Warehouse is also one of the important things added in here. The data science part of Fabric is using some of the open source libraries such as MLflow and environments, which in those environments using Python code, you can create your own models, run it, execute it, compare it, and using functions such as predict function, you can run it on top of a data and get the result. And Custo database or KQL is used for real-time analytics of the Synapse. Power BI is a tool that, of course, many people know these days. It's a tool for visualization, but not only visualization, for building the semantic dataset model of the data using a calculation language called DAX, which is quite powerful. You use this tool not only to visualize the data, but also to add extra analytics on top of the data. And the last tool they added in this combination is Data Activator, which is a monitor, detect, action platform, which you would monitor any of the Fabric data items for a, let's say, rule or condition. As long as that is met, then it would trigger an action in Outlook, Power Platform, Automate, and Teams, and more actions are coming. Okay, I'm going to show you a demo considering we have less than half an hour, so let's focus more on demo. I'll try to finish this demo in around 20-25 minutes so that we have time for questions and answers. So first thing is that you have to enable Fabric in your environment. When you enable Fabric in your environment, then your Power BI portal would not be just Power BI portal. It would be pretty much like a Fabric portal. As you can see here, I have this Fabric portal, which if I go there, I have not only Power BI, but also Data Factory, Data Activator, all of these different workloads that we talked about. If I go back to data engineering, because I want to start with that, in this workspace that I have, I'm going to start create a lakehouse. What is a lakehouse? Lakehouse is like a database or data storage object in which you store structured data as well as unstructured data. Structured data can be like tables and their data. Unstructured data can be like files, CSV file, Excel file, even image file. Sometimes you may need to store these in one place, and Lakehouse gives you that ability. So I'm going to call this Lakehouse Adventure Works Lakehouse. I'll create this. So this by itself is just a name, but when it spins up that Lakehouse, it shows me the Lakehouse Explorer, which is a place that I can see the data that I've got in here. I don't have any tables or files at the moment, so what I'm going to do is to create a data transformation item so that it loads data into that, and that would be a data pipeline. So I'm going to create a data pipeline. I would call this pipeline to load AdventureWorks. A pipeline is a data transformation object in which you can define the control flow of your execution. For example, I'll cancel this because I'm not going to use this the wizard part of it. I'm going to start from beginning here. So here is the place that I can go and build my pipeline. My pipeline might start with this, saying that we'll set a variable. I'm going to set this. I'm going to call this set variable start time of pipeline. Then in the setting of that, I would create a new variable. I call it start time. The data type is a string, fine. I would keep it like that because I want to then at the end generate a message saying that this is started at this time. So having it as a string would make it easier to concat with the rest of the things. The value that I'm passing here can be generated by expression. This expression is for Data Factory expression, which is similar to what we had in Azure Data Factory expression. It has a bunch of system variables, functions that you can use. For example, if I want to get the time now, UTC now, I would use this function. So that function UTC now will give me the time right now, and that is start of this. Then the next step after this, I might say, well, after this, let's go and run a data flow. A data flow is like an execution of a data transformation from a source, transforming it, loading it into destination. I want to run data flow if the result of this was successful. You see, I have like 4 different options. I can say, well, on success, go and run data flow, and I would call this data flow to fetch tables. In the setting of this, I would go ahead and create a data flow because I don't have the data flow yet. So I'm going to create that data flow. Then I'll be moved into data flow experience building of it. I could have done it the other way around as well, create the data flow first. And then I'll go and import data from Excel. Here, in my example, I'm getting data from my OneDrive for Business, but this data can come from any sources. Here we are talking about Power Query data transformation, which is having about 200 different data sources to get data from. So I'm getting data from that Excel workbook. In that Excel workbook, I have a bunch of tables I'm going to get data from. Let's say, for example, get data from the date table, from product table. I'll keep this as simple as possible. So I have 3 products table, and I have a fact table, which is fact internet sales. So I'll select these. I would say create. This brings me to the Power Query data transformation editor online. Similar to the Power Query we have in Power BI Desktop, but this is much more, let's say, enhanced in terms of graphical user interface, of course, and it has destination support, which I'm going to show you. The date table itself is a table that has 1 record per date. I'm not going to change that. I'll just keep it like that. The tables that I want to transform a little bit are these tables. And when I click on each table, you'll see the preview of data here, and you see the steps applied on those also in here. So for the product table, what I'm going to do is that because having product and category and subcategory in separate tables might not be the best in terms of building star schema design, what I would do is I would combine these tables. So I'll go to the dim product. I say merge query as new. This is running a little bit slow because Teams is running at the same time as well. So dim product merged with dim product subcategory and product subcategory key on both of these. The type of join that I have here selected, then I click on OK. So it merged these 2 tables together. You see really nice graphical interface showing that how these 2 tables are merged together, and the preview would show it very quickly. Normally it is fast, as I said. This is mainly because it is running quite a lot of things at the same time. That makes it slow. So then I would just select a few of these columns. Let's say these 3 columns, and I would say remove other columns. You see how simple it is to do data transformation. And as I do the data transformation, I see at the top that it just show those transformations as different steps. Then I would pick the subcategory name and product key, product category key, because I would use that product category key, and when I merge it with the next table, which is going to be product category. So I would merge this then with product category based on product category key here, product category key here. So the idea is that I merge all of these in a way that I have one product table having everything. I have all of these columns in one product table. I don't need dim product, product category, subcategory, 3 tables. I just have 1 table to do all of these. I'll remove the key columns extra. So I have category, subcategory, product name. You can rename this, of course, very simply by just doing this category. And same for the other one, subcategory. And the last one, we can just call it product name. Now, this table is pretty much my product table now. I can rename it to my product table. I wouldn't need product or product category or subcategory table. I can right-click on these and disable the staging of those. Pretty much those would be just used temporarily to create my product table, but they wouldn't be loaded in the destination. So the product table, however, is a table that I want to load into a destination. So one of the things about these data flow gen 2 is that I can now use data destination, and I can say, well, load it into the lakehouse that I just built. So I'll click on that. I'll select the lakehouse from the list of workspaces that I have access to. In this case, this is under this workspace, and the lakehouse that I've created is this lakehouse. The product table, I can rename it if I want. I can choose if I want to append data or replace it each time. I'll say, well, replace it. Append would add records to that instead of that. And I want to do the same thing for the fact table as well, although I haven't done any transformations on it, but still I want this to be loaded into that lakehouse. Anyway, so this is going to be the fact table, which I'm going to load into the same lakehouse. Save settings. And I would do the same thing on dim date. You have to do this, unfortunately, for each table, which is a little bit of challenge, especially when you have a lot of queries and tables. But this is just came out of preview very soon, so I imagine this experience would become much easier in the future. Okay, so I have these now, and these three tables are now assigned to here. I would rename this data flow. I would call it data flow. I would call it data flow load tables and publish. So this would create that data flow. And once the data flow is created, I can go back to that pipeline and add that into there. You see, it also created a bunch of objects. The lakehouse itself creates 3 objects: the lakehouse, the SQL end of it, and the semantic model, which is Power BI dataset. The pipeline and data flow uses its own staging environment. But while that data flow is initiating, I would go to the pipeline to complete the process. So after running the data flow, I would add another set variable activity. This will run after that, and regardless of if the data flow execution is successful, let's say I would go here, I would call this set variable end time, and in the setting I would create a new end time variable, and I would use UTC now function for this to get the current time. So I have a start time, end time. Then I would add the Office 365 activity after this, and I would say upon completion of this, go here, and here I want to send an email. So I would just say send email notification. In the settings, I would sign in using my Office 365 account. Once it is signed in, allow access, I would set up the details of the email I'm about to send. So I can send this to my email account. And the subject, execution of data pipeline for AdventureWorks. And this can be high. Data flow to tables started at this time, finished at this time. Something like that, right? So this can be my email setting. Now I have to go to the data flow, just make sure that I select that data flow I just created. I think that data flow is still getting published, so it would take a little bit of time for this to come up. While that is working, I'll go and see if the data flow is still, yeah. So as part of the publish process, it also refreshes the data as well. So while that is coming, I would show you the data in the lakehouse. Anyway, so this is the lakehouse that I have, and the data is already getting loaded into that lakehouse. When the data loads into the lakehouse as a table, you would see these as a table, like a database table with data in it. You can also have files in your lakehouse if you have. If you have files in your lakehouse, you would see them under the files. At the moment, I don't have any files, but let me just upload one file. I would upload the AdventureWorks file so that you can see what it looks like anyway. So here I would go and upload this file. And you see in the background that the date table is loaded. The data of that is already there. So the file is also getting uploaded. It is there. So now in this type of object, not only I have tables, but I also have the file. If I want to reach out to that file, each file has their own path, which we can use to point to ABFS path and URL. So these are the tables. Now, this type of database, I can connect to it using a SQL Server Management Studio or any database management tools. That is one of the things about the Lakehouse object here. As you see, I create everything in this Azure, in this Power BI portal or Fabric folder. I didn't even leave this environment. So I'll go to the workspace and I'll go and, oh yeah, my data flow is finished. So I'll come here and I'll assign that data flow in here. I think this is still not having that. I'll probably need to close this and come back again. So home, save, close. Yep. Close and not discard change, save change. Yep, it requires me to keep the data flow anyway. It looks like it doesn't like it. So I'll just switch to another workspace. When I come back to this workspace, it should be hopefully finding that new one I just created, which is under this workspace. And this is the data flow. I thought I renamed it, but I didn't apparently. So save. I would run this. At the same time, I would go and set up the data set for this. So you see this is running. I would see the output execution result of this step-by-step execution. You see which step is finished, which step is continuing. How long does it take? You can click on these and get some information about it. But what I want to show you mostly before we run out of time is that when I go to the Lakehouse, when I click on the SQL endpoint of the Lakehouse, because it comes with SQL endpoint, it shows me a place that I can not only see my tables, but I can query data in here. So these are my tables, which I can go and write a new SQL query. I can say, for example, select top 10 star from product table, right? I can execute that. I can, for example, join this with fact internet sales on product key equals to fact internet sales product key. And here I can say top star of product star, comma, fact internet sales star. So I'm actually joining two tables together. Now these are case sensitive names, so I have to use these as their main name style. So running it, and you see the result, right? I can run these queries from SQL Server Management Studio as well. And the last thing is that the model tab is where I build my Power BI dataset. There is always one dataset associated with this automatically. It has the tables that we added already here. It has also a few other tables which are for query executions and things like that. I don't need that for my model. For my model, I just need these tables. And when I create the connection between these would be, let's say, from product key in here to product key in here. So I'm building the relationships connections inside the web editor of the Power BI portal. The date key connection would go to order date key. Here it is. This is created too. And then I would mark this table as date table. So I'm pretty much doing most of my data modeling configuration here. Once I have done that, I can also create a hierarchy of the date fields here. For example, I can say calendar year. Let's create a hierarchy. I will call it calendar hierarchy. And then I can add calendar quarter into that if I want to add to hierarchy, calendar hierarchy, just to show you how it works. Of course, I can go ahead and create a new measure as well in this environment. This measure can be, well, let's call it sales year to date, which is equal to calculate sum of sales amount column where dates year to date of full date alternate key. Of course, this language itself requires a little bit of like learning process, but it is something that helps you to build analytical measures inside Power BI. I marked this as a currency format, and I also marked the currency format with 0 decimal places. And I also marked this for the sales amount column itself as well to be currency format with 0 decimal places. So I can go on and build this model as much as I want, but should be good enough for now. I'll go and create a new report on top of it so that I can show you an end-to-end, hopefully in this last few minutes, and then we can take a look at the questions. Of course, I just showed you few aspects of Fabric, not all of those, because it's a big area itself. So let's say I would show a matrix with everything from product category, subcategory name. I'll keep all of these in one place, and then from fact internet sales, I'll bring the sales amount of the value. Right. On another part, I would go ahead and create a visual with sales amount. And from dim date, I'll bring the calendar hierarchy. Like the relationship I created didn't really work out well. Yeah, it does. Product key and this one date key. Date key, order date key. Yeah, looks like okay. I'll just change this to calendar year for now. Yeah, doesn't like this to be designed like that, which I can later on check why the relationship didn't pick the right direction. So it is from dim date. Oh yeah, it shouldn't be that way. It should be one to many. Now, let me go back here. If I refresh this, I have this showing correctly. Okay, so I'll save this report. We'll just call it report. So it was from building the lakehouse, loading data into it, and loading the report. I would just go to the view lineage of the report so that you can see how these steps are done. So I've created a report which is built on top of a semantic model or a Power BI dataset, which is built on top of a lakehouse. And the data of that lakehouse is already, this is the SQL endpoint of it, but the data of that lakehouse is already coming from the lakehouse itself, and it is fed using a pipeline. Now, there are a lot of aspects of Fabric I didn't talk about because you can't talk about Fabric in just a few minutes. It's real-time analytics, data science part of it, the data warehouse, data activator. I didn't talk about those, but even these few things that I talked about, it showed you some of the features that we can all use in the same environment. I would use all of that using the same licensing plan, which is Fabric licensing. I didn't have time to explain about it, but if you are interested, I can talk about it. And you would get all of those at the moment with trial options as well. So I would suggest you to go and apply for a trial Fabric account. It gives you 60 days. You can play with it, see how it is working. The Fabric trial is equivalent of F64 Fabric capacity, which is a good capacity to try on. But even if you try like F2 capacities, which is like the smallest capacities, you would be amazed how it performs really well. And it wouldn't cost you much. It would cost you like 3 hours of F2 would cost you like $1 only. Okay, if you have any questions, these are the places you can reach out to me. The YouTube is like I have a lot of videos about Fabric. You can go and check it out there. And the blog, I usually write at least a blog a week explaining about different Fabric objects and Power BI at the same time as well. Okay, that was me. Thank you to our sponsors, of course. Without them, we couldn't make this possible. And I'll go back to this so that you can have these URLs. While there, I'll just check there is a question. So, Gavin, would you mind turning on your microphone and asking your question? Or you prefer me to just read through it? Okay. So does this mean I can write a big complex SQL query to endpoint instead of doing transformation in Power Query? Yes. Depending on the object you use, might be different though. For example, with Lakehouse, your SQL query should be querying the data, not really writing or modifying it. But if you create a warehouse object in Fabric, then you can also modify it. And your big complex query would run quite fast as well, because we have something in Fabric called compute bursting, which would help in Warehouse and Lakehouse to respond to your queries much faster using extra resources needed. Seems a bunch of questions. Another question, can we connect to it on-prem SQL without installing data gateway? You mean storing your data in on-prem SQL? That would be different. That wouldn't be Fabric data storage. If you mean from SQL Server Management Studio connecting to a Lakehouse or a warehouse created in Fabric, yes, you can do that. You wouldn't need gateway. You need gateway from cloud to on-prem, not from on-prem to cloud to just see the data. Performance-wise, would it be faster to run transformation in query, or I guess you mean in Power Query or SQL Query? That would be really depending on the type of transformation you may do. You may prefer to first ingest the data, see how your Power Query transformations runs. If it is heavy lifting transformation, SQL code might work better. So you might then do that transformation using SQL code. Any other questions, please? We have 2 minutes. Okay, next slide. This question? No?
No, it's just for coordinating, because Rami is managing the session.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Running Python Notebook? Yes, you can run Python Notebook. Those are part of the data engineering and data science workload of Fabric. It can be Notebook, not just for Python, but you can have R code, Scala code, and Spark SQL code in it as well. Cool. Okay, thank you everyone for attending. I hope you have a great rest of your conference today, and handing it to you guys back again.